We often think of knowledge as a light, a beacon that guides us out of the darkness of ignorance. But what if some things were never meant to be known? What if the truth isn't a light, but a void that consumes everything it touches? In this library, the books read you, and they don't like what they see. It started on a Tuesday during the kind of rain that makes the world look like a smudged charcoal drawing. The university's central library was a labyrinth of oak and echoes, a place where time seemed to thicken like cooling wax. I was hunched over a desk in the basement, surrounded by the smell of vanilla and decay that defines old paper. I was looking for something, anything, to finish my thesis on forgotten languages. That's when I saw it, tucked between two leather-bound volumes of medieval law. It had no title on the spine, no library markings, no Dewey Decimal Code to justify its existence. The cover felt like cold skin, and the pages were the color of a dead fireplace. They felt like compressed ash, fragile enough to crumble, yet strangely heavy in my hands. There was no ink on the first page, just indentations, as if the words had been pressed into the paper by invisible fingers. Curiosity is a slow-acting poison, and I had already swallowed the first drop. I began to read the first line, my voice a mere whisper in the cavernous silence of the basement. The silence is not the absence of sound, but the presence of a witness. As the words left my lips, I felt a sharp, crystalline cold snap against the back of my throat. I tried to clear my voice, but the sound of my cough didn't happen. I saw my chest heave, felt the vibration in my lungs, but the air remained perfectly, terrifyingly still. Panicked, I looked up from the book, expecting to see the worried face of a fellow student or a librarian. But the world had shifted. The warm, yellow glow of the lamps had been replaced by a bruised, sickly gray light. The other students were still there, sitting at their desks, but they weren't moving. They looked like statues carved from soot, their eyes fixed on open books that contained nothing but gray dust. The windows, which should have shown the rainy campus, now opened into an endless rolling fog of ash. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. But again, there was no sound. Only the ghost of a sensation. The library had expanded. The walls had drifted back, and the ceiling had vanished into a cathedral of infinite shelves. This wasn't my university anymore. This was the basement of the world. This was 7 I walked toward the exit, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. Every step I took felt like walking through invisible cobwebs that clung to my skin and muffled my thoughts. The air tasted like rust and old secrets, a metallic tang that made my tongue feel numb. I reached the main staircase, but it didn't lead to the lobby. It spiraled upward into a flickering gloom of endless wood. I tried to scream, to tear the silence apart with a roar of pure terror. Nothing. My mouth opened, my throat strained, but the 7 air swallowed the sound before it could even form. I saw a figure at the end of the aisle, a librarian, or something that wore the shape of one. It was tall, its limbs elongated like shadows cast by a dying fire, its face a smooth mask of gray parchment. It held a finger to where its lips should have been, a gesture that felt less like a request and more like a sentence. I ducked into another row of shelves, my hands trembling as they brushed against the spines of the books. The titles were names. My name. My mother's name. Names of people I hadn't thought of in years. I pulled one out, and as I opened it, I felt a searing pain in my chest, as if a piece of my soul was being scanned. The book wasn't full of stories. It was full of my own memories, translated into that same compressed ash. Every secret I'd ever kept, every lie I'd ever told, was being etched into the pages in real time. The library wasn't a place for reading. It was a place for harvesting. I realized then why the other students were static. They had been read until there was nothing left but the husks. They were empty vessels, their lives distilled into gray dust and bound in skin-cold leather. I dropped the book, and it hit the floor without a sound, the pages spilling out like white blood. The tall figure was closer now, gliding between the shelves with a predatory, silent grace. It didn't have eyes, yet I could feel its gaze peeling back the layers of my mind, searching for the core. I ran. I ran through aisles that stretched for miles, past sections labeled unspoken regrets and forgotten dreams. The architecture of the place began to warp, the shelves leaning in like hungry giants. The silence was becoming physical, a heavy pressure that pushed against my eardrums until they bled. I found a door, a small wooden thing that looked out of place amidst the grand, decaying cathedral. I threw it open, hoping for the rain, the cold, the mundane reality of my failing grades and my messy dorm room. But there was only more library, a different room filled with desks where people sat, writing frantically with pens made of bone. They weren't using ink. They were pricking their fingers and writing in a dark, viscous red. One of them looked up, and I saw that his mouth had been sewn shut with silver wire. He pointed at the book I was still clutching, the book of ash I had found in the basement. I realized I couldn't let it go. It was fused to my palm, the ash paper absorbing the moisture from my skin. The tall figure appeared in the doorway behind me, its parchment face tilting in a mockery of curiosity. It reached out a long, spindly hand, and for the first time, I heard a sound. It wasn't a voice. It was the sound of a page being torn slowly, agonizingly, from a binding. The sound vibrated inside my skull, a scream that didn't need air to exist. I understood then that I was the new volume. I was the missing chapter in the library of silent screams. I fell to my knees, the gray light fading into a deep, absolute black. The last thing I felt was the sensation of a needle piercing my upper lip, beginning the stitch. Now, I sit at a desk that feels like bone, under a sky that is made of dust. I am writing this for you, though you will never hear the words. You will only feel a slight chill when you walk past the restricted section of your local library. You will see a book without a title, and you will feel that same toxic curiosity bloom in your gut. Go ahead. Pick it up. Open the cover. But whatever you do, don't read the words out loud. Because in 7 the silence is always hungry, and it has been waiting a very long time to hear what you have to say.